Temptation here. Bringing a more serious video to you today. I'm a little frustrated. I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media about the coronavirus, and that is indeed what I'm going to be talking to you about today. A little background on myself, both personal and professional background. First, I'll go over my personal background because that may be why you care to continue watching this. I have both lung and heart disease. So my lung disease is cystic fibrosis. I'm going to try to get through this without the oxygen, but as I'll probably put a clip in, I tested at 37% lung function. So that's kind of the border for me of needing oxygen or not needing it. And my heart function is at 39% via my last MRI in December, and that's because I have non-compaction cardiomyopathy. It's a genetic heart disease, and I can't do much about that. So I do have some other health issues. I'm pre-diabetic. I have to test my blood sugar and do some other things to kind of watch that. And then I have kidney damage because while they were investigating some other things in my body, they did a series of MRIs and procedures and ultrasounds and things that gave me a lot of dye, and they really hurt my kidney function during those procedures with all that dye. So now my professional experience, joined the medical field about 4 years ago. My highest level of education is a bachelor's degree. My most recent work history is that of working in the medical laboratory at a hospital. And if you don't know what that is, that's where specimens get sent to be tested. And when a nurse draws your blood or does a flu swab or a viral swab or asks you to produce a sputum culture, that gets sent to the lab, and then we test that and then relay the information to the results to your doctor. We were also in charge of collecting blood as well, so I do have patient experience as well as laboratory experience. So I got the opportunity of having both of those. Now that I've put that out there so you know a little bit about who I am and maybe the knowledge that I have, let's get into how that applies to this video. So the memes that I've been seeing have been like, well, why even wear a mask if they're not like air gets through the sides, or like it doesn't even fit you right, or you don't even wear it right. Yes, a lot of those things have some degree of truthfulness. This is all like a sliding scale. It's like if someone's shooting you with water with a fire hose, it's going to be better to hold up a window screen to block it than it is to not hold up anything at all. And so that's kind of how this works with masks. It's going to be better to tie a shirt around your face and prevent, people from coughing and sneezing and the droplets hitting you directly than it is to not have a shirt tied around your face. So stop sharing these memes and these posts about you don't need a mask, why are you wearing a mask? My wife and I have been getting so much judgment about the whole mask issue. We go out, or if we go out, which has been rare, people stare and they act like we're crazy or like we're sick and we're contaminated. And oh my goodness, the amount of misinformation. It's like, for one, when I have gone out, like only because I have to, I need to go out for something important, I've been wearing oxygen kind of. When I walk, I get winded, and so I wear oxygen. And you would think the oxygen itself would be enough, a good enough sign to let the person know why I needed to wear a mask. If somebody's wearing oxygen, that obviously means they can't breathe well enough. And if they're wearing a mask, they probably don't want to catch whatever it is you have if their lungs are already compromised. This morning, Marlene had to make a trip to Walmart. We sent her out by herself. I didn't go this trip, and a woman saw her masks and gloves. She was wearing gloves because, Walmart's a high traffic area. Although she went at a time where not a lot of people were going to Walmart, but a woman scoffed at her and saw her mask and was like, "Oh my God!" And and she had her kids with her and her husband, and to set that kind of example, as if like Marlene's actions, as if they were just way over the top or just totally unreasonable. It's just really frustrating for that to happen to my wife or myself. Obviously, if Marlene gets the virus, then I get the virus. So that's why we both have to take an equal amount of precautions from preventing ourselves of getting that virus, because you are still contagious in that incubation period. And so if she were to get it, she could actively be transferring it to me before either one of us knew she was sick. So she's got to be extra careful. So with the news telling us one thing and politicians telling us another thing, and then social media and the memes and our friends' statuses telling us another thing, we have a lot of information to kind of dig through and decipher what the truth is and pull that out. We need to separate the facts from the opinions. So I want to give some facts first, and I want to talk about a study that I was made aware of yesterday. It's in the peer review phase, and the way that it works is a doctor or a group of doctors will conduct a study, release the paper for peer review, meaning other doctors and other physicians can review it, and then if none of the doctors have a problem with it, and then the majority also agrees that this is a proper study and should be moved onward to publish, like to the public, then that's kind of how it works. So right now it's in the peer review phase, meaning other physicians can see this study, but it has not yet been published. So some of the information was really, really helpful and really important regarding the virus. This study was released by Dr. Roger Schultz, and in the study I actually counted 13 authors, meaning that 13 different physicians contributed to the findings of this study, or worked in conjunction with each other to release the final product. One of the most interesting things in the study that I found, or the most helpful things, is that they aerosolized the virus, which means they put pressurized air behind the virus solution, pumped it into the air, and then they measured the air after certain amounts of time to check for virus. And so they found that they detected virus in the air up to 3 hours after they had aerosolized the virus. Aerosolized meaning like the kind of spray that would be produced from somebody sneezing. That means if somebody sneezes in a room, up to 3 hours later, you could still become infected from the virus. And in the medical field, we would call that airborne, meaning you would take airborne precautions to prevent yourself from getting the virus. That would be where the N95 mask would come into play. Now, the next thing they did in the study was a surface contamination study. They wanted to see how long virus could live on different types of surfaces. So the ones that they listed were copper. The virus could survive 4 hours on copper. On cardboard, the virus survived 24 hours. And then on plastic or stainless steel, which is probably a couple that apply to us the most, or at least plastic, like your Walmart sacks or your bottled water, things like that, virus survived 2 to 3 days. I mean, that changes the game. This clearly says that 2 to 3 days is the amount of time it takes for a virus to die on plastic. So good information to have, kind of scary information to have. I checked a lot of previous data that had been put out by the first wave of the Chinese, those who were infected, hospitalized, and then released. And so some of the data that they found was that in China, the mortality was higher because the problem was that they didn't have enough beds. Those who required intensive care couldn't always get it. And if all the people require that at the same time, it's a big problem. So the mortality therefore went up because they couldn't get the care they needed. Now the numbers. Today is March 14th, and I checked these numbers at 1:48 p.m. These are facts. These are not me guessing or giving estimates. The global mortality rate as of 1:48 p.m. today was 3.73%. To calculate mortality rate, you divide the number who died by the total number of cases. 3.73 globally. The lowest country had a mortality rate as of this morning, South Korea, mortality rate of 0.9%, so meaning almost 1%, and that is the lowest country that we have data from on mortality. Now, the highest country right now is Italy, and their mortality is 6.81% as of this afternoon. So it's pretty safe to say that the actual mortality rate is somewhere between 0.9%, like 1%, or 6.81%, somewhere in the range or thereof. And to put it in perspective, because all of you have been so abundant with your flu comparisons, I'm going crazy. If I see another flu comparison, I'm going to lose it. The flu killed 12,000 people last year, and nobody said a word. And the flu kills more people than corona. And they'll show a screenshot of the U.S. having 299 cases and then 12 deaths. And it's like, why are we judging a virus that's 2 months old and comparing it to a virus that is thousands of years old? You can't compare a baby to an adult. Like, Hitler didn't kill millions of people by the time he was 2 months old. You understand? No one was afraid of Hitler at 2 months old. And that's what we have. Coronavirus is new. This is just the beginning. This is just the start of the damage and the mortality and the death. Okay, so since we keep using these flu comparisons on Facebook and social media, then let's do a direct comparison. So the flu infected 32 million Americans last year. All of our physicians and all of our epidemiologists right now are predicting that this is going to be worse than the flu, or infect more people than the flu. But let's just say it didn't, and let's say they were the same. So let's say that the coronavirus infected 32 million Americans like the flu did last year. The flu's mortality rate, and we have a well-documented journey of the flu's progression from the beginning of time, more or less. And the mortality rate is typically 0.1%, so meaning a tenth of 1%. Although in America it was 0.037% last year for Americans. But what that means is that out of 32 million, the flu claimed 12,000 lives, 0.037%. Not too many, but 12,000 lives is not a small number, and it should be taken seriously, in my opinion. Now let's do the coronavirus. So coronavirus infects, let's say it infects the same, 32 million Americans. Right now, the WHO, the World Health Organization, released their mortality rate for the coronavirus. I'm sorry, not right now. A few days ago they released it, and they said it was 3.4, even though currently, as of today, it's 3.73 globally. But we're going to use 3.4 and give them the benefit of the doubt, even though that information is a little bit old, in my opinion, because they released that maybe a week ago. Out of 32 million, with a 3.4% mortality rate, the number of deaths in America would be 1,088,000 people. Now, if we use the actual mortality rate, which is 3.73, it's going to be more than 1,088,000, probably more like 1.2 million or 1.3 million. Why are we still comparing it to the flu? I mean, yeah, if you get it, you watching this, if you get it, your symptoms may act like the flu. And you're not going to die. You probably won't die if you're watching this. Now, some of my friends who are vulnerable, susceptible, immunocompromised, have other pre-existing conditions. Some of you are watching, you're saying, yeah, I will die. I'm one of those people. Epidemiologists predict that 40 to 70% of our population are going to get coronavirus. Even at the low end, 40% of 300 million Americans is something like 130 million Americans. The flu only infected 32 million. So at the low end of their predictions, and these are doctors, that's 4 or 5 times the amount of infected people from coronavirus. How many deaths is that? A few million? Several million deaths? And I get it. The testing, we're working on the testing. The first batch that the CDC manufactured, the reagent, which is the solution that you mix onto the swab, mix with the swab to find out if it's positive or negative, the reagent was bad in the first batch. The CDC messed up. It is what it is. We have to deal with it. That put us a little behind on testing, but it happens. I am so sick of these political memes or political posts, like statuses regarding coronavirus. People saying that our government manufactured these thoughts, so to speak, like that the virus isn't even an actual issue. It's no different than the common cold or the flu. Democrats are making this a big deal to sway the election, to get Trump, to make sure that he doesn't get reelected. Of course, they're trying to view the information so they can make sure Trump doesn't get reelected. They're on opposite sides. This is not new. Both parties have been doing this to each other for decades and decades and decades. And some of you have nullified the dangers of coronavirus by saying that, no, this is all just hype. This is nonsense. Here's the real agenda. Coronavirus isn't even a thing. And this is the agenda. No, the virus is real. Why do you think countries are closing their borders? Do you think countries are closing their borders because of American politics? Do you think they're having mandatory quarantines because of American elections? Do you think the WHO cares at all what America does with its leadership? The only thing they care about right now is how unprepared we are and how ridiculous it is that we're not preparing for what's coming. We have such a divided country that that's going to happen. The liberal media is of course going to try to take Trump out of office, and the conservative media is going to make Trump seem like the hero. Why is this surprising, and why are we nullifying a virus that doesn't care about politics or borders because of your conspiracy theories? Just save it. The media is gonna, of course, the media, they're businesses. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, these are all businesses. They need to make money. You make money with sensational content, with emotion-based reactions. That's what they want. They want to draw that out of you and get you fired up and get you to panic. You don't need the media. Go look at the CDC. Go look at the numbers of mortality versus number of infected. Go listen to doctor testimonials. Go look at doctor interviews, epidemiologists, what they're saying, and forget about the media. You don't need them to tell you how to form your opinion on the coronavirus. I mean, this is just offensive. These assumptions that all of this is political hype and based on this party or that party manufacturing this idea, these thoughts about the virus and telling you how to feel about the virus to persuade you who to vote for is just nonsense. Just stop that. That's just stupid. Listen to the doctors. Don't listen to politicians about a virus. Since when did you go to the doctor's office and then come in and wait for Trump's diagnosis, wait for Trump's prescription for you? It's ridiculous. If you want to know what's going on, don't listen to a politician to try to figure out what the medical analysis is of the situation. And moreover, these political memes and these excuses that people are trying to use about the virus and the hype behind it, I mean, these are just straight offensive to the elderly and the vulnerable. I can see your posts. I can read your posts. Yeah, you may not think your grandparents are going to see your posts. They're not on social media and they're not going to see it. I'm seeing it. You think you have a cold. You refuse to get checked because you're invincible or it doesn't affect you or you're just a young, healthy individual in their 20s or 30s. I won't survive the coronavirus. At the end of the day, if you don't take this seriously, and you get my wife sick at work, and she in turn gets me sick, and I die, my death is on your hands. And I hope to God you have to look her in the eyes every day at work and know that you're responsible for leaving her a widow in her 20s. Look at her face. If you don't take this seriously, my death is on your hands.